Welcome back. If you haven't already, check out the other installments in this series. Now, let's begin. My friends and I decided to go camping one spring break. We had planned a week in advance, and as the days got closer, the weather got worse. It was cold and grey, unheard of for Arkansas. The night finally came along with yet another cold front. It was in the 30s, but we had dressed warm and stocked up on whiskey and beer. The plan was to hit a spot my buddy knew, which was barely accessible with his 4x4. We wanted to really camp, none of those designated sites for families and seniors in RVs. So we aimed away from civilization, which was only made up by a single spotlight and a couple hundred people, and drove into the woods. After 30 minutes of bone-rattling dips across dry creek beds and detours around trees, it started to rain. By the time we found camp, it had turned into hail. The spot was marked by an ancient dirt road a few hundred feet long and the rotting carcass of a Volkswagen Bug. That night was spent passing a bottle around, hoping we'd figure out the tents before we were too drunk. Eventually, we did manage to start a fire with diesel. At this point, the hail had stopped. The empty whiskey bottle lay broken in the fire, and we had a decent pile of empties growing. We drank, we played cards, we passed out in our tents. The next morning, I gradually regained consciousness to the sound of something large being dragged past my tent. It was what looked to have once been a station wagon, stripped and rust-covered, dragging the Volkswagen with a chain. The Volkswagen had been there for so long that the floor had rotted out, and roots had tied it to the forest floor. They lay scattered in the wake of the wagon. A woman was driving, a man beside her, and 3 shirtless kids sat in the back, where there used to be seats. The man stared out of the window, away from us the entire time. The children had some dirt smeared on their faces, which illuminated their glassy 1,000-yard stares. It's the look of crushing poverty, and you've probably only seen it in pictures. It exists in war-torn countries, the projects in inner cities, and the deep south. So deep that the old gas station back in town, a place you'd probably jokingly hum the Deliverance theme, that was the city to these people. She spoke in a deep nicotine and whiskey-soaked drawl.
Y'all come down from the city to do some camping? Well, I reckon that's fine, as long as you ain't doing no drugs. Y'all ain't doing drugs, are you?
We weren't.
Just drinking then? Hell, I like a drink now and again my darn self. That's fine. That's just fine. Wanna know how I knowed y'all was here? Seen them black helicopters flying around? Them some boys that work for me, see? This is my land, and they told me. Can't be too careful. Figured I'd best go check it out.
She started laughing. Mucus bubbled up to wet her dry cackle. The man stared out at nothing. One of the children put both hands on the window and gazed at us. His mouth hung open, and spit cut a line through the filth on the glass. He was probably 10 years old.
Y'all know Bethany?
We didn't.
Huh. Everyone knows old Beth. Y'all go to church?
I lied.
Good. I ain't got no time for those that don't fear God. Why don't you come down to church tomorrow? You can meet Bethany. It's just over that hill up there. Can't miss it. Boy, she'd sure like to meet y'all. They all would.
We assured her we would. She drove away into the trees, slowly dragging the Volkswagen. As soon as she left, we all looked at each other and started laughing. It was just nerves. There wasn't anything funny about it. We all have the remnants of a primitive warning system for danger. It's been eroded by living safe and civilized, but every once in a while it goes off and you obey it without question. Something is wrong. It started before she spoke. When I looked into her eyes, something was wrong. The kids, the man, her laugh. Something is wrong. Eventually we did hike up the hill. You could see for a mile. There was nothing. No buildings, no clearings, just forest. We cut our trip short, packed up, and left before noon. This happened last year in Taiwan, China. My husband and I arrived by train around 2 a.m, only to discover that the hotel room we'd booked had been given to someone else, and we had nowhere to stay for the night. This was actually not the first time we'd found ourselves on the streets of China with nowhere to stay that winter, funnily enough. So we were a bit stressed, but not freaking out. We found a cheap hotel online, planning to stay one night and find somewhere nicer the next day, and took a cab over. It was hard to find, so when we got near, the driver called the hotel. A young guy in a tracksuit came out to the street to bring us up. He seemed pretty normal, if surprisingly energetic for 2 a.m. He took us into a run-down building through an alleyway entrance, and we took the elevator up to the 9th floor. The hallways were unfinished, just bare concrete and exposed wiring. We are led through a slight labyrinth of these halls till we get to the hotel. It's only one hallway of rooms, 4 in total. I was pretty on board with everything till we got into the room. Then I started getting a bad feeling. I thought it was just being prissy at first, because my primary problem was that there was no sink, just a bed and a glass room with a squatter and shower. Normal at lower-end hotels in China, but I haven't been to one with no sink. Then I noticed there was a small window by the bed, leading into the hallway, with no covering on it. Then, while the guy was harassing my husband to try and wrangle more than the agreed price out of him, I noticed there wasn't even a proper lock on the door. I was really not feeling it at this point, and my gut was telling me we should go. My husband wanted to stay. Remember, it's cold. It's 2 a.m. We've been on a train all day, and we're tired, but I insisted we leave. That's when it got really weird. When we came in, there was no sign of another living soul in the building except us and the young guy. No other guests, no other employees. The place didn't even seem to have a front desk. But when we started walking down the hall, the tracksuited young guy followed us and started begging us to stay. Then, all of a sudden, about 10 more people came out of nowhere, and they were all following us down the hall, begging us, some of them yelling and touching us to stay. I don't think so. So we left and spent the next hour and a half at a 24-hour KFC down the road, and ended up spending 3 times the price for a soft bed and some peace of mind. Worth it. So my boyfriend and I were visiting a few friends in Richmond, Virginia. We went with another couple and decided to get an Airbnb. The other couple that we went with picked out the Airbnb, but they hadn't really been to Richmond, Virginia before. So the place they picked was about 15 to 20 minutes outside of the city centre. Bit of a pain in the arse, but not a big deal. The neighbourhood was nice. The house was okay. When we got into the house, it seemed really... I can't really describe it. It was nice enough. We were only staying for the weekend, and the owners left us some banana bread. But there was just this odd vibe to it. bit of a creepy vibe. For example, when I put our stuff in our bedroom, I opened up the closet, and there was nothing in it but a chair. Not like a fold-up chair, but like a small child's chair, facing the bed from the closet. No hangers, no other linens, no towels, just this small chair in an empty closet. I know that reading it doesn't sound creepy, but I promise you, it was weird. I brushed it off and we decided to settle in, and then go and meet up with friends in the city. Day turned into night. We all had a bit to drink and decided to call it an evening around 1:30 a.m. The four of us head back to the house and went to bed. Usually when I drink, there is nothing in the world that will wake me up. My head hits the pillow, and that's it, where I will remain until the sun comes up. So I don't know why it didn't happen this particular night. Maybe it was the feel of the house, but I woke up around 3 a.m. to a quiet giggle, like a grown man giggle. I thought maybe my boyfriend was just giggling in his sleep. But then the giggling started getting louder, and it sounded like it was coming from outside our window. The window was located behind the bed and above our heads, so I quietly snuck up to see if I could see anything. Nothing. There was no one out there, but it went quiet. The giggling had stopped. So I was about to just go back to sleep, but then it started back up again. This time, I knew it wasn't my boyfriend, and I knew it wasn't the other couple. The giggling grew louder and louder, until it was a full-blown hysterical laughter right outside our window at 3 a.m. I felt my boyfriend's hand clench mine. I didn't even know he was awake. I asked him, "Did you bring your gun?" "No, but I have my knife." He asked if I saw anything out there, and I said no. The laughing stopped after about 15 minutes. We stayed up till about 4 a.m, looking outside the window, making sure the laughter didn't come back. We finally went back to sleep. When we woke up the next morning, we asked the couple if they heard anything, and they said no. In fact, they thought we were crazy. One of them suggested that I dreamt it. But how did my boyfriend and I both dream that there was some random person laughing their heads off outside of our bedroom window? I can't tell what's creepier, to be honest. The fact that we heard that at 3 a.m. in this creepy house, right next to our window. Or that when I looked out, there was nothing there. I guess you can chalk up my not being able to see it to maybe this person being directly under our window. But why would someone do that? Why would someone just stay for 15 minutes outside of a house, giggling and laughing, and then just presumably leave? Nothing happened after that. We went back home, but to this day, my boyfriend and I still bring it up as one of the creepiest things to ever happen to us. So, to the random dude laughing outside the bedroom window at 3 a.m, let's never meet. Thank you for listening, and if you liked what you heard, consider subscribing, or check out another episode or series which is popping up on the screen right now. If you have a story that you'd like narrated, check the description below for my Twitter. Thank you.